part of the churches in Massachusetts forever. I am a licensed independent clinical social worker, the LICSW that you see after my name, which means that I am a social worker that does therapy. I do clinical work. I have been a social worker since 1999. Stopped for a few years when my kids were really little. I have 3 kids. I have a junior, a freshman, and a 7th grader. So teenagers, yeah. Thank you. I can introduce myself. It's okay. Yeah.
But you don't say everything. Yeah, I know. Mary is really, her family is my favorite family. When I came in 85, they are the first family to receive me in their house. Their father, on the other hand, was one of the pillars of our church, one of the people who came, like, I want to call him the Columbus of the Coptic church, right? He came to Massachusetts, there was no church. With him and Bashmandis Farouk and these elder people came, and of course, Dr. Talat Qadis, God bless his soul, was really the pillar that made the Church of St. Mark for us. And as you know, St.Mary and St. George stemmed from St. Mark. That means we owe the whole family a huge gratitude. Also, I have known her brother. I got the pleasure of serving his brother when I was in Sunday school, Joe. It's my highly favorite student when back in the 80s. Still, I see him as little Joe. I really learned from him. He was very spiritual. I was in the class listening to what he was saying, more than I was listening to what I'm saying. The whole family is really serving the Lord. And as I said earlier, no wonder that the apple does not fall far from the tree. Thank you.
You should tell Joe that. I'm going to tell Joe that you said that. He'll be so happy to hear that. Yeah.
But you did not mention everything.
Yeah.
Professionally.
So I'm licensed in Connecticut, Illinois, and Massachusetts because, master's degree. I have worked in a lot of, so I will say, I'll tell you about my work history really, really quick, is only to say, and I said this to high schoolers, that I have seen everything and heard everything. So I started out working for what's now DCF, the Department of Children and Families, doing child protective work, working with families that, with abuse and neglect. I worked in the fields of adoption and foster care. I worked in a domestic violence shelter. I did play therapy for preschoolers. I worked with adoptive parents. And now I have my own practice for the past 6 years, private practice that I meet with people. So that's me. Yeah. And my dad. My dad is pretty wonderful. He's a great guy. So today we're going to talk about understanding anxiety, what it is, why does it happen, how common is it, and what we can do. If I am, again, I have heard a lot, seen a lot, and whatever I'm able to answer, I'm happy to. If you have questions as I'm talking, please feel free to raise your hand. Like, you don't need to wait. If you want to write stuff down, I also have paper, and you can write it down if you're, shy to ask it. Before I start, today is just anxiety. When I talk about anxiety, I have to say that most of the time, I think between 60 to 80% of the time, when someone is diagnosed with anxiety, they also have depression. It's called comorbid. So usually those two diagnoses go hand in hand. Some of the symptoms are the same, some of the treatment is the same, some of the physical and emotional symptoms are the same. And we can talk about that another time, but just so you know, if you know someone with depression or know someone with anxiety, just be aware it's usually both of them. I always start most of my talks with a disclaimer that this is sensitive. If you need to take a break if you need to. Some people here might be diagnosed with anxiety, or a loved one might have anxiety, so it might be, or you might be struggling, so it might be a sensitive topic, and that this is not a substitute for professional help, and we'll talk about how you can seek help if you need it. So feel free to take a break if you need it. Okay, we'll start with definitions. Mental health and mental illness, we'll start there. So mental health is something that we all have, like our physical health, our emotional health, our all the different healths. So mental health is like a line, a continuum, right? So all of us are somewhere on this line. Some of us are all the way here, where we're feeling really good, really emotionally healthy, we're feeling very stable, we're feeling very calm. And some people are more here that are a little bit more anxious, feeling depressed, struggling. So we're all somewhere on that line. And it might change from day to day, month to month, year to year. We might have times where we're feeling pretty bad, and then sometimes where we're feeling pretty good. And they're influenced by factors that are out of our control, right? Like if somebody passes away, if you get diagnosed with an illness, and some things that are in our control. Whether you exercise, how you're treating your body, what kind of substances you're using, right? There's things in our control or out of control. So that's mental health. Everybody is on that line of mental health. Mental illness is when our mental health is not so strong and it's struggling, and we need help. So mental illness or mental disorder, you'll hear me say some of those like interchangeably, is when those hard things are happening, like we said, depression, anxiety, and it's defined by the length and intensity of those negative feelings. So, for example, if I am anxious this morning, feeling a little nervous this morning, but now I'm fine, that is not mental illness. If I have been anxious, and every illness is different, every disorder has a different length of time, but let's say I've been anxious for 7 days a week for the past, month, and it's, from 0 to 10, a 10 out of 10, then maybe it's a mental illness. Then maybe I need to look at it. It's not always so clear, but if it's happening frequently over a long period of time and it's intense, then it might be a mental illness. It is an illness, it is a physical condition. Your brain is not working the way it's supposed to, or it's working in the wrong way, and it's very, very treatable, very, very manageable. I think a lot of people, if you've never had treatment for a mental illness, for anxiety or depression, you ask yourself, like, what can we do? It's actually so treatable. People get a lot of success from depression, anxiety, from therapy. So that's mental health and mental illness. Let's talk about what anxiety is and isn't, and what's the difference between stress and anxiety. People will use the word, actually, what is anxiety in Arabic? I forget, what is it? Ala. Okay, all right. Ala, maybe another word. And I wonder if this is, so in English, stress and anxiety are used interchangeably. Someone will say, I'm so stressed, I'm so anxious. I'm so stressed, I'm so anxious. They're actually different words, and I don't know if that's the same in Arabic or not. There's a difference, right? Stress is normal. If stress didn't exist, stuff wouldn't get done, right? I would not be here on time. I would not prepare this talk if just a little bit of you need to get this done, you got to get this done. A little bit of stress, right? And it's a biological factor. Long ago, the story goes that, people who are cavemen, a threat comes, they don't want to get eaten by a lion, so they send that adrenaline and it saves them from danger, right? So biologically, it works well for things that you need that stress for. If you aren't stressed, you're not going to get things done in time. You're not going to cross the street fast enough. You know what I mean? There's a car coming, I'm going to run. Your heart starts to race a little bit, you're a little nervous, you move faster, that your body gives you adrenaline, you go. That is good, right? So when we experience stress and it's protective or it's functional and helpful, it's good. Doing something for the first time, right? Going to a job interview. Who here has had a job interview and felt stressed beforehand? Absolutely. You're supposed to feel that way. If you didn't, you may not have prepared as well. Anxiety is that plus more. So anxiety is persistent, excessive worry that doesn't go away even in the absence of that stressor. So let's take the job interview. I am getting ready for my job interview. My stomach hurts. I'm really nervous. Maybe I'm sweating a little bit. I go take that job interview. I'm done. If it's stress, I'm going to start feeling better soon. I might be a little bit nervous that I get the job, but I'm not feeling that 10 out of 10 anxiety. If it's anxiety, it doesn't go away. So even when that danger is not there and you're still nervous, that's anxiety. So it can be a problem when there's no real or immediate danger, happens a lot, it's intense, and it stops you from doing important things. You're not leaving the house, you're not going to work, you're not, you're calling in sick all the time when you're not sick. So this stops you. I'm not taking care of my kids, I'm not making dinner, I'm not, taking a shower, all those things, the important everyday things. If it stops you from doing that, then it may be a problem. I always like to talk about this when I talk about stress and anxiety. We all have a stress bucket. Hopefully you can read the words that are up there. And especially as we get older, maybe have kids, moms, dads, the amount of stuff that goes into our stress bucket is unbelievable. I have 3 kids. It is unbelievable. It's not just your stress, it's your parents' stress and your kids' stress and your all this, and the holidays and the cooking and all this stuff, right, goes in and in and in. So sometimes the big things, like if someone passes away, that is a big stress, but it's not full. Sometimes that's that little thing that just sets you over the edge. Like I went to the Arabic store yesterday and they had no madkhaya. That stressed me out. They're out of madkhaya. So like if I hadn't taken care of all my stress, like it's really awful. If I hadn't taken care of my stress, I would have lost it, right? If I don't take care of my stress, I would have lost it. But I was like, okay, that's okay, right? Because I try to take care of my stress. So I say this because whether it's stress or anxiety, your bucket is going to fill up with the big things and the little things. And then when it boils over, that's when you're like, I can't do it anymore. And those of us who are married, I think more early in my marriage, I would lose it. My husband would be like, I don't understand what's wrong. And it would be something small, and he's like, I just don't understand. And then later I would learn, and he would learn that it's the build-up of things, right? So that's what makes you say, for adults and kids, I can't do this anymore. The things on the sides, the taps, are what we're going to talk about at the end, things that you can do to help. If you're feeling stressed or anxious, it works both ways. Relieving the stress, relieving the anxiety, taking care of yourself, talking to people. That is critical. And whether you're feeling stress or anxiety, mental illness or not, you have to do that. So that is how we're going to talk at the very end. Oh, that's not mine. Someone else connected. Maybe just try it. I'll reconnect. I'll see if I can reconnect. It's okay, I'll try again. Let's see. Yeah, no, it's not coming up. I'll try again. Any questions while I'm trying to connect? Yeah, I'll try. It's only showing me high school class. Screen mirroring. Nope. It's okay. I'm going to keep going because, whatever, I'm just going to keep going. The next one was a QR code that's not working anyway, so it doesn't matter. It was going to be a poll, but I'm not that technically savvy. So I'm just going to have you guys raise your hands. If you're embarrassed, you don't have to, but yeah, good. Just raise your hand if you've ever felt any of these symptoms. Let's see. No, it's not. Sorry, it's not coming up. I don't know why. There's no madkhaya. They only had the leaves. Nobody wants the leaves. It wasn't the minced one. You know what I mean? Like that. Mafruma. It's not, Abuna, it's not working. It's not coming up as an option. Mary, I'll show you. Oh. That's Church St. George. Oh, it kicked me off the internet. Okay. So raise your hand if you've ever felt any of these symptoms. Nervous feel. Yeah, you feel nervous? I'm not stressed. You guys I'm good. And it ever felt like a nervous feeling in your stomach? In English, they call it like butterflies in your stomach, feeling like, my stomach. Anybody ever felt that before? How about feeling like your heart is racing faster? Yes, like heart is facing, like kind of, like, your heart. Just when you're nervous, sweating a little bit too much, maybe like feeling like my deodorant's not working tight, like just sweating and nervous. Yes, yeah, your face gets flushed and red. Feeling like, I see this a lot with people who tap their foot, like feeling like I can't control my foot, it's tapping, 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 or your fingers, yes. So I bring up those symptoms. Those are symptoms of, and I don't say this so that I don't want anybody to diagnose themselves. If you're feeling one of those things, it does not mean that you have anxiety. It's that these symptoms are common, and I say that so that you don't feel like you're crazy. I can see everybody's response from here. Pretty much everybody was kind of like, yes, or raise your hand. Everybody has felt some of these feelings at some point in their life. They are normal, you're not alone, you're not crazy, there's nothing wrong with you, okay? And I said this to the high schoolers a lot, because especially when you're younger, and when you're older, you feel like, we have friends and we talk to each other, but we don't talk about, not always our emotions. You maybe are close friends, but not usually. So sometimes we feel like there's something wrong with me. Nobody else feels this way. Kids especially feel that way. There's nothing wrong with you. It is something that can be dealt with, and you're not alone. It's actually pretty common for adults, according to the National Institute of Health, for adults, 1 out of every 31%, 1 out of every 3, 31% of all adults will experience an anxiety disorder at some point in their life. So look at how many people are here. Thank you. A third of us, there we go. A third of us, thank you, will experience that. And it does not discriminate, okay? So it's not, just because we're Christian doesn't mean that we don't get anxious. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Just because I'm Coptic doesn't mean that I don't get anxious. There are some, I don't have a lot of research background on this, but there are some ethnicities that the rates are higher. And believe it or not, Middle Easterners have a slightly higher rate of anxiety. I believe it because I see my mom and like the way that like some people are in our church, they get very nervous, like very like, so believe it or not, they're slightly higher rates. So not only are we not immune, it may be a little bit worse in our community. So just to be aware. So this I hear a lot of why can't I just pray it away? And I got some questions from the high schoolers of, does this mean that I'm sinful if I'm praying and it doesn't go away? Mental illness has a history of being misunderstood and stigmatized, not just in the Coptic church, not just in the Orthodox or Christian church, all of humanity, all the religions, Islam, Judaism, Hindu, stigma, right? That there's something wrong, that there's like a fear, discrimination towards people with mental illness. And this fear is what can keep people from getting help. Like I said, I'm a therapist. When I started out, I was like, I'll see Egyptians if I need to. Like, I don't know. Most of my clients are Egyptian. And that's totally fine. Like, I understand, people are more comfortable with me because I'm Egyptian. And it's to say that we need help just as much as everybody else, okay? And it actually makes me so happy that they have overcome that stigma and they're talking to me or whoever else they're talking to. Arabic speakers, correct me if I'm wrong, but I learned this recently, that the word magnoon, the root word is so if you say magnoon, like with the J, majnoon, the root cause is jinn, which means like evil or spiritual. So did you guys know this? I just learned this. So if this is wrong, please tell me. Did you know that? Okay, so yes. So that tells you a lot, is that word means like spirits or demons, right? That word jinn. So that is where that word, I know I don't use the word crazy, and please don't use the word crazy, but if you say magnoon, meaning like mentally ill, right? There's a connotation with an evil spirit, right? There are such a thing as spiritual illness. That is for Abuna to talk about. I am not an expert in spiritual illness. But I can say this, is that if you're not sure so first of all, if you're struggling with anxiety, depression, spirituality should always be a part of your treatment, right? You should be praying about it and seeking help, right? But you're not weak or sinful. So is it spiritual illness? If you're going through all of the sacraments of the church, if you're praying, if you're fasting, if you're taking communion, if you're talking with your father at confession, and what you're feeling is not going away or getting better, it might be not. It might be a mental illness, right? Spiritual illness is usually dealt with spiritually, and if the spiritual things aren't working, then maybe it's mental illness. the high schoolers were able, you guys are doing a great job teaching the high schoolers, because I asked them about the 3 parts of the body that the church teaches, which is the body, soul, and spirit. And we believe that the body is united. So if one part suffers, the whole person suffers. So if you are struggling mentally, you're going to be struggling spiritually, right? There's no conflict between being depressed and being a good Christian. It's a struggle. Somebody you know has high blood pressure. What do they take? Medication, right? Or they fix their diet. They do something about it. It's not shameful. People will say, I have diabetes. I'm the sukkar. I hear that all the time. Or people will say, I can't play basketball. I hurt my knee, right? Like, no shame whatsoever. I would love for someone to say, someday, maybe we'll get there, is like, I can't hang out. I'm really depressed today, right? There's no shame. It's an illness just like any other. And spirituality can be, like research has shown this, it's no surprise, a very positive factor in helping with mental illness, with coping, with prayer helps, meditation helps. So people who are a part of a church actually helps you if you're dealing with mental illness. And I'm not saying that it's not hard, it's really hard. It's very isolating, but I'm hoping that the more we do things like this, that stigma will go away. You're not a bad person. You're not a bad Christian. Any questions so far? All right, we're going to talk about how anxiety can feel like, risk factors, and then what we can do to help it. That's the end. Anxiety can feel like a lot of different things. This is, if you're feeling it, or if you're, I know you guys are all Sunday school teachers, if you're seeing this in your kids, just, pay attention, right? It doesn't mean if I have 3 of these things that I have anxiety. Nope, it's just let's pay attention. There's something going on here. Feeling irritable, upset, angry, crying more than usual, very sensitive. For kids, having a lot of meltdowns, that can be anxiety. Feeling like you might have a heart attack, that something's wrong with you, or like things are going really fast or slowing down. Feeling like edgy, on alert, feeling just like that nervous feeling, that agitation. Feeling so, unable to calm yourself down. And if has anyone felt nervous and someone says, just relax? Has anyone told you that? Like, does it work? No. Yes, it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. And I still, I say it to I'm guilty. I say it to my kids, take it easy. So with anxiety, you can't calm yourself down. And it's so frustrating when someone tells you, sometimes that works. Sometimes you can help, you can say, relax, breathe with me. Let's take it slowly. Okay, so if you help them to relax, that's different. But someone with anxiety, they just can't relax. And it's almost makes it worse when someone says, just relax, and they can't. They can't just like that, right? They need help doing it. Especially with anxiety and depression, there's a lot of negative self-talk. Everybody has that voice in their head that says things that, with anxiety, that voice is awful. This is not going to be good. Your mom is not okay. He's going to get really sick. You're going to fail that test. You look really stupid. You're not going to do a good job. And then over and over and over, that voice is like nonstop. So some things that it can feel like emotionally. Physically, and I should say that physically, it's different for different people. Last week, I taught the high schoolers about anger and how anger feels for different people. So we all know the angry person who yells and throws things, but the truth is that when I get angry, I get really quiet and I start crying, right? So my physical symptoms are different from this person's physical symptoms. Same thing for anxiety. Some people feel tense muscles. You might start to feel, or if your child says, my arms are so sore and I don't know why, and they have some other stuff going on, sometimes tensing your muscles can make you sore, give you that headache. We talked about the racing pulse, your heart pounding, somatic complaints, which is like stomach ache, headache. Stomach ache it's interesting. When you are anxious, your body releases a chemical called cortisol, which upsets your stomach. So if you say to someone, or your child says to you, or a Sunday school kid says to you, I'm so nervous, my stomach hurts, it's real. It's a physical feeling. Their stomach actually hurts, because I think that oftentimes we say, you're just nervous, it's fine. They are nervous, but they also have a stomach ache. So don't, it's my least favorite thing when someone says it's all in your head. It's not, because our bodies, our 3 parts, our physical bodies and our brain, they're all connected. So when I'm feeling here, I am going to feel it in my body. It's not all in my head. Sleep is a big one. You see a lot of sleep issues with people who have anxiety, trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, waking up and being up for hours at night. I will say that if you are feeling some of these, like the sleep issue, excessive fatigue, to see your doctor first to make sure it's not explained by something else. A lot of medical things can explain this. Women who are going through perimenopause or menopause have sleep issues. It might not be an anxiety issue, but once you've ruled out medical things and you're not sleeping, that's one of the biggest clues for me, like a big problem. If you're not sleeping and it's not something medical going on, then you might want to look at all the areas of your life and see what's going on, especially with nightmares, I think. So we said anxiety is a physical disease. It's highly treatable. I think the statistic is that maybe 40% of people who have anxiety seek treatment. So I wish that was different. Any questions so far? Good. Okay. So people are always wondering, like, why do I have it? What happened, right? It's hard as a blanket statement to say, like, this is why you have anxiety. When I meet people individually, we'll look at their family history, we'll look at the way they were raised, we'll look at the current stressors, we'll look at all areas of their life. And for some people, we're able to say, this is probably why, right? Your mom is really anxious, and you grew up in a really anxious household, and whatever it is. So there's some things that are risk factors, they are not causes. No one thing causes it. It's not a choice. Nobody chooses to be anxious. And again, it's not a moral failing. It's not a result of sin. You do have a choice in how you deal with it, but there are some things that increase your risk. Genetics there's a clear genetic risk. If you have a relative with depression or anxiety, you're more at risk. You're more likely to. There are some mental health disorders that do have a genetic link. Anxiety is one of them, some of them don't. Brain chemistry, which is a tough one because you don't necessarily know how much neurotransmitters you have in your brain, but some people's brains make them more susceptible. Some personality traits can make you more susceptible. So this is for example, and this does not mean that you are going to be anxious, but if you are an overthinker, if you think about everything over and over, or think about everything from A to Z and then back from Z to A, you might be more at risk. So someone who's an overthinker, life events and trauma, traumatic events that can change our lives, whether they're little or big, can change your brain. So, losing a person, losing your job, a death in the family, financial troubles, catastrophe like your house burning down, those things absolutely can be a risk factor. And then last but not least is substance use and abuse. And I'm going to, for the high schoolers, I was like, you shouldn't be doing anything, so 0. For you guys, I'm going to just point out a little bit more. It's not, I didn't say substance abuse. Abuse, yes, and use. It's both of them. I think that sometimes we think, like I'm really feeling a little anxious, I had a rough day, maybe I'll just have a glass of wine with dinner. It actually makes your anxiety worse. There is a type of anxiety that I diagnose people with called substance use-induced anxiety. So sometimes it can trigger an anxiety disorder, and most definitely it makes it worse. It makes it worse. When you're having that glass of wine or that beer or whatever, you might feel good then. The next day, your anxiety is worse, and so on and so on and so on. I promise you, it does not make it better. I promise you. And what I told the high school kids, in case any of you teach high school, is that with marijuana, specifically for high schoolers, marijuana can trigger depression, anxiety, and psychosis, like schizophrenia, like seeing things that are not there, hearing things that are not there, even if they don't have a family history of it. And I've seen it as devastating. Like once you have schizophrenia, you have it. It doesn't go away. Any questions? I know that was kind of tough. Any questions? So another reason for kids not to smoke weed is that it can make them really, really sick. This is, like I said, anxiety is highly treatable. You guys ever play Chutes and Ladders, this game? Yes. Okay, so the game is very simple. Like if you roll the dice, if you get to a ladder, you go up. If you're on a slide, you go down. I think I played it in Egypt. Isn't there one in Egypt? Yes. What's it called in Egypt? Yes. Thank you. Yes. So, we're going to talk about things that we can do, how we can help ourselves. But for anxiety and really anything in life, change is not a straight line, right? It's not a linear path. Like, you're not going to say, okay, I'm going to get better at this. I'm going to go, it's going to be perfect the whole way. I like the idea of chutes and ladders because, at least the one I have at home, when you start chutes and ladders, you go up the ladder, down the slide. No matter what, you're never back at square one. So once you've decided, I'm going to do something about this, I'm going to help myself, you are already on the way. Even if you go down, you're going to go down, but you're not at zero, okay? So as soon as you say, I'm going to start, I'm going to do something, I'm going to help myself, I'm going to try, you're not at zero. So it's to make you guys realize that it takes time, it takes practice, but you just have to keep going, okay? So there's some things that we can't change. We said, like the risk factors. There's things that we can do called protective factors. So this is the overarching theme that I'm going to talk about what to do. It may look I'm going to break it down very simply. So really what the big things, there's a lot of things you can do to treat anxiety. This is the most common way that we treat it, is what's going on. Identify it. Identify it and name it. What is going on? How do you feel? Challenge it and treat it. So what is it? Let's challenge it. Let's deal with it. Sounds, it's actually pretty simple. It's hard to do, but it's pretty simple. The research shows that naming your feeling helps you manage and control your anxiety. There's lots of ways to do it. Journaling is one way, being specific and writing how you're feeling. So when we were, if you have kids or when you were little, your parents taught you how to speak and they'd say the word mama or baba over and over and over again. And then when you said it, like they would rejoice, you said baba. And that's how we learned language, over and over again. Most of us were not taught the language of emotion in this way. Maybe we learned the basics like happy, sad, angry, but there's way more feelings than that. I feel frustrated, I feel dejected, I feel whatever it is. We weren't taught that. So it's so helpful, no matter what your age is, to work on naming your emotions. This one I showed to the high schoolers. This is like the beginning stage of naming your emotions. And I have this up at home, and my kids are they're so tired of me asking how they feel. I do this all the time. How are you feeling? And so this is a good one to start if you have kids. They sell this on Amazon. It's a magnet. You can put it on your fridge, and you can point to how you're feeling. So this is the beginning. And I'll share this slides with Rita because it's hard for you guys to see this. This is what I give to almost all of my clients, and I love this tool. It is called the feelings wheel. So if you can't see, I'll tell you. In the middle of the circle are all those feelings that we probably were taught about. Bad, fearful, angry, sad, happy. Those I think we're all taught, or we know those. As you go out the spokes of the wheel, they start to get more specific. So you kind of follow it out. So the red is angry. So I'm going to start with angry, and then I'm going to look at some of the options. Do I feel humiliated? Do I feel aggressive? Do I feel frustrated? Do I feel critical? Okay, maybe I'm feeling frustrated. Am I feeling annoyed or infuriated? I'm feeling annoyed, right? So if you look at annoyed is different from disrespected, different from skeptical, different from hostile, right? All these words are angry, but they're all very different. So when you're feeling something, sit down and figure out, what am I feeling? And that will help you maybe figure out the why. So name your emotions. They're different. Like if you're able to see the ones on the outside, again, I'll send them. They're different. Okay. So figuring out what's going on, whether by talking to someone, writing it down, naming it, however you're able to figure it out. That's step one. Identify it. What is making me anxious? Or what is the feeling that I'm having? If just the feeling. The second thing is to challenge it. Okay, I am feeling this way. I have this negative thought. Okay, I am feeling nervous about this test. I feel like I'm going to fail. The first is to realize that everybody gets these negative thoughts. They come into your head, and you can usually push it away. If you're not able to push it away, then we need to challenge it, right? Then we need to say, like, what is going on? Why is this stuck in my head? There's two ways that I like to look at it. The first one is, I call it taking that worry to court, like challenging it. What is the evidence for it? What is the evidence against it? So the school ones are easy to do. So let's say I'm a high schooler and I take an exam in physics and I fail my physics exam. And my negative thought that comes up is, I'm a failure. Okay, that's my negative thought. Okay, hold on. Let's look at the evidence against it. Okay, you are actually doing really well in physics. It's just one test, so you're probably not going to fail. What is the evidence for it? Yeah, you did bad on that test. That is true. So usually our negative thoughts are based in some fact, but they've just been catastrophized. They've been like amplified and made worse. So yes, you did bad on that exam, but you're not a failure. You can still do better. So you take that thought and you look at the evidence for it and against it and think of a more helpful thought. So rather than I am a failure, my new thought might be, all right, you didn't do well on that test. You know, you did a bad job on that test, but you're doing pretty good in physics, and as long as you keep going, you're going to be okay, right? So taking it to court. Evidence for it. Not lying to yourself, but being realistic. And then I'm not going to say to myself, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter that you failed. It matters, but it's okay. And then this, again, something I almost do with almost all my clients, is this idea of a circle of control. You can do this yourself. Take out a piece of paper, draw a circle, and start to write down everything in the middle that you can control and everything on the outside that you can't control. Where do you think people feel the more anxious, the most anxiety? Things that they can or can't control? Can't. When you are losing sleep at night, it is not about the things that you can control. You're not losing sleep about what am I going to have for breakfast, or maybe what you're going to make for dinner, because I feel like every day I don't know what to make for dinner, but like, what am I going to have for breakfast? You do lose sleep over, is my mom going to be okay? Am I going to lose my job? You know, some of the things that are out of your control. So you do lose sleep, which is what I tell people is that if the things that you're not sleeping are the things that are out of your control, nothing is going to change at night. So it's out of your control. You can't control it anyways. You thinking about it is just like one visual that I like is if you're rocking in a rocking chair, right, and you rock really, really hard, will you go anywhere? If I keep rocking harder, no. Like you're just, doesn't matter how much you think about it, it's not going to change. It's kind of like a rocking chair. So challenging them and thinking about what can I control, what can I not control. The last step is, okay, what do we do about it, right? There are a lot of things that you can do to deal with anxious feelings. I'm only going to talk about a few. So you've identified it, you're challenging it, and now you need a plan. What are you going to do now to deal with your anxiety or stress? And what are you going to do if it comes back? And again, remember, it's not a straight path. Like, it's not a quick process, but it's very treatable. The first thing I will start with is talking to somebody. Not necessarily a professional, but somebody, right? You cannot walk around with these feelings by yourself. And I believe this to be a spiritual thing, like a Christian thing. God did not create us to be on this island by ourselves. He created us to be a part of a community. That's why we worship as a community, because we support ourselves as a community. I know that we feel like that stigma of like, I can't tell, this person about this, but we already talked about the statistics. 30%, a third of this church, maybe more, is feeling this, right? Or has felt it. You're not alone. Or they've had a spouse, or a mom, or a dad, or a sibling. Everybody knows somebody who's been anxious or is anxious. So you are not alone. So talk to somebody who will listen, right? They don't have to have all the answers. You're not looking for therapy necessarily, but the research shows that if you talk about it, just sometimes, therapy is a lot of different things. One of the things is actually just talking, right? Sometimes you need more than that, but just talking is so helpful. You guys have wonderful priests in this church. Talking to the priest, talking to friends that you can trust that will hear and that will listen, talking to a fellow servant. Again, you just need somebody who will listen. So, if somebody comes to talk to you to say, I don't know what to do, most of the time, someone just wants to talk, right? They're not necessarily looking for a solution, which is for most of us. The more you keep it in, it's worse. It festers, it gets worse. Another thing that is helpful is deep breathing. Who here knows how to do deep? It's called diaphragmatic. This right here is called your diaphragm. Who here knows how to or has done deep breathing? Can I see a show of hands? Okay, okay, so I am going to teach you how to do this. Just want to get a sense of, I'm going to teach you two techniques. So this is the first one. So this is your diaphragm, okay? When you're nervous, you breathe from your chest here. This makes your heart rate goes up. This makes you more nervous. When you want to be calm, you want to breathe from your stomach or from here. So when you do deep breathing, you're going to put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. And the goal is to make the hand on your belly move and not this part move. Okay, so we're going to do it together. So everybody close your eyes. Okay, close your eyes. You can do it not the closing eyes. You don't have to close your eyes when you deep breathe, but you do need to put down all the phone, put down all the distractions. Close your eyes when you're ready, okay? Put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly, okay? Slow down your body for a minute. And then when you're ready, I want you to breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3. Hold it for a second and then let it out slowly through your mouth. One more time. In through your nose. 2, 3. Out through your mouth. So you can do this as much as you want. You'll hear a lot of different ways that it's taught. People will say in for 4, out for 4. It doesn't matter as long as what you're breathing out is a little bit longer than what you're breathing in. That's the key. So if you breathe in for 3 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds. If you don't want to hold your breath, don't hold your breath. But this part, activating your diaphragm here and breathing out slowly through your mouth, it's physiological. It'll trigger a part of your body that helps you to relax. So whether you want to relax or not, it will help you relax. It's another tool in that toolbox. The next one is laughter. Laughter releases a hormone, a chemical in your body that reduces tension and pain. I don't know if anyone's ever heard this, that laughter will sometimes help people that feel physical pain, and it reduces tension and anxiety. So put on a funny movie, watch a funny YouTube video, call a friend who makes you laugh. And I will actually prescribe this to my clients. I will tell them, watch that. We all have a show that we'll watch over and over again. Usually it's a funny show that you've seen 1,000 times. Watch that show. For me, it's Friends or Brooklyn Nine-Nine, or whatever show that you like to watch, or a movie that you've seen. And I always tell people, try to watch something that you've seen before, so you don't really have to pay attention. You're not nervous about what's going to happen, and you know it's going to be funny, okay? Another one out here is going outside and exercising. And I know that this is a hard one because we all know, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And what I tell my clients is, I don't care about what you look like. I don't tell people to exercise so you can look better. I don't care. All you need to do is move your body for 10 minutes a day. And what I told the kids is, look at your phone, look at the number of hours, your usage. For me, it's really embarrassing. The number of hours I use my phone, I can move for 10 minutes, take a walk for 10 minutes, clean the house for 10 minutes. The most important thing with anxiety is you want your heart rate to go up. Whether you burn calories, I don't care. Whether you build muscle, I do care, but I don't care. So as long as your heart rate goes up, your body releases endorphins, which is a chemical that makes you happy and reduces anxiety. If you cannot exercise, go outside for 10 minutes, even if it's cold. Leave your phone inside 10 minutes. There was a study out of Denmark that said that is the minimum amount of time. So anything less is not too much. More is great. 10 minutes outside. We can do that, right? We all have warm coats. 10 minutes outside. We talked about do not self-medicate, do not drink, do not abuse prescription medication. It's not going to solve it. Journaling, we talked about writing down your feelings can be very helpful. It's not for everybody, but if you find that helpful, write down your worries, write down your thoughts. A healthy lifestyle is very important, as much as you can, right? Don't skip your meals. Watch your caffeine intake. If you are anxious or have a tendency toward anxiety, caffeine will make it worse. And for some people, it'll trigger a panic attack. So be careful with your caffeine or the Celsius drinks of the kids, all the things that has a caffeine. not most important, I should have started with this, is prayer and meditation and mindfulness. Just slowing it down. Prayer, of course, like all the things that we do in church can be so helpful, and everybody finds something, like I find music, like the church music, to be very calming. Someone might find the Agbeya to be very calming. So whatever part of the church is calming for you, do that. But the quiet part, you have it, again, 5 to 10 minutes of quiet every day. And think about your time, and I no such thing as I don't have time. Everybody has time for that, right? I don't care how busy you are. Everybody has time for 5 minutes of quiet, no phone. I have started, the past few weeks started to do that with my husband, and 5 minutes feels like forever. I'm like, what time? It's been 2 minutes. Oh my God. So start with 5, try to get used to 5, be present. Because when we're anxious and nervous, our minds are everywhere. You want to come back and be present. And if you're worrying in those 5 minutes, that's okay. Just gently guide yourself back. The goal is not to clear your mind. I think the monks are really good at that. And maybe someday, we can do that. It's really hard to do that. It's just to try to be present. And if it becomes a prayer in those 5 minutes, that's great too. So, like I said, there's a lot. I'm going to teach you guys one more technique, and then I'll be all done. And this is easy. So this one I love because you can do this anywhere, almost anywhere. And it's called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 coping mechanism. And it's not complicated at all. It's literally using all your senses to be present, almost to when you're really, really anxious and you feel like you can't really see anything. You feel like you're not present. You feel like, oh my God, I can't, when you're really, really nervous. It helps your brain recognize you're here, you're present, makes you feel in control, helps to refocus your mind. So you literally will sit, and you can do this now, put your feet down on the floor, think to yourself in your head, what are 5 things that I can see? I can see that icon, I can see that bench, I can see that light, right? So as I'm doing it, I'm not thinking about the things that are worrying, I'm thinking about those 5 things. What are 4 things that I can feel? So again, I'm starting, I feel my hair, I feel this is soft, I feel this, this fabric. What can I feel? So again, it's starting to bring me back down, be more present. 3 things you can hear, which is very helpful. If you do this at home, it makes you slow down, because if you're trying to hear something, you need to quiet your brain. So if I'm sitting in my office, I try to hear outside, the windows are closed, do I hear the birds? And that actually slows down my heart rate. The last 2 are things that you can smell and something you can taste, and I'll explain that. So you can do 5, 4, 3, anywhere. Things you can smell, it depends. I put perfume on, I'm gonna smell it. Again, it slows me down, I'm breathing. I keep a candle on my desk so I can smell it. Certain smells are calming. The something you can taste is not always possible. But if you struggle with anxiety or extreme stress or nervousness or whatever, there are certain things that you can taste that will help with your anxiety. There's a nerve in your body called the vagus nerve. I can give a whole talk on that, but certain things trigger that nerve, and when that nerve is triggered, it helps you to calm yourself. So for my high school students, who are my clients or college, I tell them to carry around those sour warhead candy. So anything that's shocking or jarring, like chewing on ice, a sour candy, a lemon. If you know anybody who gets panic attacks, this is a great thing for them. Cold, and even to hold the cold, feeling cold things in your mouth. So taste. But if you're looking to calm, you can also do, calming things. But if you're very, very anxious, that sour or that cold will kind of bring you right back. Or if you're feeling kind of disconnected. So this is one way. So all of these things are like tools in a toolbox, right? Like the hammer is not always going to work. The wrench isn't always going to work. You got to find what works for you, right? And then deal with it. So anxiety or stress, either way. Some resources. I think that's it. So takeaways is that anxiety is not, you're not a bad Christian if you have anxiety. Dealing with it is not a quick process, but if you have these tools, you can keep going back to your tools. It's not going to change overnight, but if you keep at it, it is treatable. It's a process. And give yourself some grace, right? And you're not alone, right? It's common, you're not alone, and you have to take care of yourself. So those are the big takeaways, I think. That's all I got. Any questions? Yeah. Hopefully, yeah. 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 There is a line, yeah. 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 To complain, yeah. 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 Right. So it's a fine line. Yeah, like if you are just complaining, quote unquote, and not doing anything about it, at a certain point, a friend might gently. So and make sure you're talking to someone who will gently, lead you that way. If someone says just stop complaining, maybe that's not the person to talk to. But a friend might gently, or a person you might gently lead you back. There's truth on both sides. You do need to talk about it if it's bothering you. You do need to change your mindset. So you cannot change the fact if you have a child who's ill and that's very stressful. You cannot change that, right? But you can change the way those thoughts run through your mind, right? So you can think about what can I control, what can I not control? What is upsetting to me? What am I feeling? Like all those things that we talked about. So there is work you can do on your end, but you still need to talk about it, right? So finding somebody who you can talk to, whether it be a priest in the church, just to say like, I need to get this off. Like, I just feel this way. It's not helpful to complain and do nothing about it. I agree, but there's a balance, right? You gotta work on something that's bothering you, that's really difficult. But if, for example, God forbid, but like your child is sick, you need support. Like you're always gonna need support. And sometimes it might turn, professional, not just a therapist, like there are support groups, right? Like if again, God forbid, if my child was sick, I might join a support group for parents who have sick children, right? There is people around. It doesn't have to be in your friend group. It doesn't have to be in your church. There are lots of great spiritual resources out there. There are hotlines out there. You are supposed to talk to people, right? That is part of it. Part of it is working on the issue and how is it affecting me and what can I do about it. Part of it is talking about it, right? So there's a balance, yeah. Yeah. Who knows what they're. Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's easier said than done. I will say what I tell people is I have different people that I talk to about different things. And I even like, Abuna Bishoy is my father confession. He's wonderful. I will have, if I'm having, a certain issue, I will talk to this priest about this issue. He's always my father confession. But there's some people that specialize in certain things. If I'm struggling with, like Abuna Mark in Natick is also a social worker. So if I'm struggling like with, something work-related, I might talk to him, right? Somebody who understands it. So not everybody is the right person for whatever is going on. And it might be might be hard because maybe you don't know that person yet, and it might be somebody professional, it might be somebody you don't know that, but if that person is not giving you the support that you need, they don't need to leave your life, but they may not be the person that you talk to about that. You know what I mean? Like, you need to examine the people in your lives, if that makes sense. Any other? Yeah. No, no, yeah. Yeah. You do need to get it, but no. Okay, so her question was like, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so she was saying that like your kids, even your Sunday school kids, if you like your kids and your spouse and anyone in your house, they pick up on how you feel. They do, and there is such a thing as it's not common, but spouses that are very, very, very depressed will sometimes trigger depression in their spouses. Like it's really hard to be around somebody who is anxious or sad and not feel some of their feelings. You try, but it's hard not to. So we don't want our kids to feel that way. The best way to teach children is by example, not by our words, it's by example. And even naming how you're feeling, to say like, you know, my son's name, Jacob, I know you want to talk to me. I'm so anxious, I don't want to feel this way. I'm trying to figure out how to feel less anxious. Part of it is that, like acknowledging, and part of it is doing that work on yourself and looking at the big picture, right? And believe me, I get it. Like, dinner has to get done. Things have to happen. You know, rides need to be given, but it's the slowing down and looking at the big picture and letting go when you can. When you can. It's really hard. I know it's really hard, but you know, weighing things out, thinking about like what is going through my mind. We're like, why is this so important to me right now? Is this good? Can this wait? Really, what's most important is your kids. I understand, like I know life, like you still have to cook dinner, they gotta get to school on time, but they're not gonna remember, they're gonna remember how mom and dad were with me. They're not gonna remember the meal that you made on Tuesday. Like they don't care, they do, my kids care, but like it's the bigger thing is the way that you are. Kids learn by watching us. It doesn't matter how old your kids are, even as they become adults, they learn by watching us. And I think it's very strong to admit to your kids, like, I'm not perfect, like I am really stressed and really anxious, I'm trying to fix it. If you see me doing this, I want you to know that I'm not okay with it, I'm working on it. If it's affecting you, please tell me. I'm trying to work on it. It's not their job to fix it, but just to acknowledge, like, I'm not doing so good today. Like, you know, if I snap at you, I'm sorry, I will apologize, but I'm trying to work on it. And by putting it out there, now everybody knows. And you're more likely to work on it, actually, if you put it out there. Yeah. Yes, Samir. That's a big one, yeah. There's a great author that talks about guilt and shame, and guilt is only if you've done something wrong. Did you do something wrong? Like wrong, like Jesus wrong. Like no, like you didn't, right? Like, you know, I made this instead of that. I was 5 minutes late because it was, you know, it's okay. It's okay. Guilt exists for a reason. It's what brings us to confession, but do not feel guilty if you didn't do something or did it later, whatever it is. That is no reason to feel guilty. Any other questions? So I told I'm happy to share my number or my email if you want to ask questions later or privately. I don't know if I have it on here. I don't think I do, but I have my card with me, so I'm happy to share my number. Yeah. But any other questions or abunas? Your abunas are great, by the way. I learned a lot from Abuna Bishoy. I do. I learned a lot from you.
That's you're just so humble. That's what it is. طبعا thank you to Mary خالص كتر خيرها يعني she's wonderful. على فكرة Mary taught my kids in Sunday school صح؟
Yes.
Both of them. يعني she taught تاسوني وليسا في Sunday school.
Now Lisa's my friend.
I know. You are now visiting us and يعني Mary was wonderful من زمان خلاص. God bless her and bless her family. Please بعد كده أنا هشيله من طفوا الاير كونديشن ولا الهيت في فصلكم. في فصلين أنا ما أعرفش، ما هو في كام ريموت مختفي، مين اللي خده الله أعلم، بس ممكن تطفيه كده.